Morning. So what did we learn from week 5? Despite it being Winfield's bye week, there was still plenty of going on in the AAA division. There was a few games I got right, a few games I missed. But before we kind of get to those games, I want to run down just what Winfield's opponents did this week to see if Winfield possibly gained anything, either from past or future. Lincoln County lost to Brook. Hoover beat Point Pleasant, so that was a 1.2 point gain for Winfield. South Charleston lost to Capital. McGoffin County also lost. Princeton beat a team out of Virginia, Graham, Virginia. More about that game here in a minute. Nitro over Ripley. Pikeview beat Shady. Parkersburg beat Riverside. So other than the common opponent games, which were Hoover Point and Nitro Ripley, it really wasn't that great a week for Winfield in terms of those secondary points, and the opportunity to get the bonus points when the game is when they will play those games, as well as Hoover did beat Point Pleasant, so there was a strength of schedule that those second level points that I like to call them, were gained there. All right, as far as like I said, there was a few games that kind of surprised me. Greenbrier East beat Oak Hill. I had picked the other way with that, so that's going to be a big plus for Greenbrier East. Fairmont Senior lost to University. I mean, that's not like a major upset. Big school, good school and University, but I did think Fairmont Senior was going to win that game. Kaiser with the win over Hampshire. I had that going the other way. Obviously, two teams that are both in the AAA division. Elkins lost to Philip Barber. I thought I had that one going the other way. John Marshall lost to Parkersburg South. Again, no one I had going the other way. And East Fairmont lost to a winless Preston. So that's another one. So that will shake up my rankings when I show them to you here in a second, as far as like my final rankings. So like I said last week, I know I'm not going to be perfect. I would say that the closer we get to the end, the better my record will be. So I did get a lot of games right, but I just want to point out what I got wrong. So anyway, so that's kind of the rundown for this week. Like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about the Princeton Graham Virginia game here. When we get to that, when we start talking about the Princeton Winfield game. But otherwise, again, I'm going to share my screen. Show you where they are as far as the points are right now, as well as my projected points, and we'll talk a little bit more about the bracketology and that sort of thing. So we'll go ahead and share the screen right now, and we'll go over that, and then we'll start talking about this weekend's games. All right, as far as this week goes, I wanted to kind of basically do the same thing we did last week. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm sharing my screen with the standings as they now as they now are in the AAA division, and it's based again on gross points. Instead of just the averages, because like I said last week, every team plays 10 games, and so it's just all about chasing a total point. It's not so much about chasing an average. I think from a coaching standpoint, that's a much easier way to show it, because you're just trying to bank points every week. Like I talked about before, it's about those first level versus the second level. And again, I'll just restate what I said. I think first level points are those points that are in your control, and the second level are the ones that are out of your control. And it gets to be out of your control when you lose a game. So you're talking about the strength of schedule points, but the first level points are the points that you can get by winning games. Those are the base points plus the bonus points, particularly the bonus points that the opponent you're playing has already earned. So in this case, just for example, Winfield is playing Princeton, and Princeton's already won 3 games, and that means that this game would be worth 15 points, the 12 base points for the victory plus the 3 bonus points. So those are all in Winfield's control as far as like first level. So So that's why, again, why I put it, I like to use the total point. So I don't know if the rankings reflect the the rankings as far as the total points, the gross points reflect the exact averages or not. And again, it's not my thing. This is still the SSAC's thing. It's just showing them in a different perspective to see the points. Now, one thing I will say real quick is I did make a mistake last week with capital, and I did that not necessarily in this part, but in the my predicted part, my season final type thing where I'll show you here in a second. I had capital at 92. They should have been at 118. That was my mistake for not counting in their strength of schedule component points all in. So I caught my error again when I'm going through it, when I went through it this week, and I realized, oh, I did not add those in when I presented that to you last week. So anyway, so this was this week's. You see that Winfield dropped to 15. I said that they would because when you don't play, you don't have an opportunity to pick up any points really from a game you played. Even if you lose, you don't pick up the strength of schedule points. Uh, so uh, so so I told you they would drop, and they did. So honestly, yeah, there are some surprises because like I talked about in that first segment, that Greenbrier East over Oak Hill vaulted them up there. You see they're fourth in the total points right now. And Fairmont Senior dropped because of their loss. East Fairmont dropped in my mind because of their loss. They're already all the way down to the 23rd spot. And yes, I don't include all 2018s because I get to a point where even getting down to Shady Spring is a bit lower than maybe need be as far as those teams that would be, yeah, in contention. We'll get to that bracketology thing here in a second. So all right, so just get through that and just scroll over. The first numbers you're seeing on the left here is last week, and that's where things stood last week. As far as projections at end of year, you can notice that Winfield at 133.1 is the same this week and last week. Yes, and I do show them dropping to 10th instead of being at ninth. And yes, is some movement otherwise because, again, some of the surprises that I mentioned in that first segment as far as wins and losses. But here's the kind of the novelty thing, the kind of the fun thing, the kind of the nerdy thing that I like. Hampshire, you see, is 133.4. Winfield's 133.1. And, will that happen in terms of like, will it something kind of turn out to be that close, particularly those two teams? I don't know. Maybe it's kind of doubtful with this many weeks to go, it'll be that close. But the interesting thing about that is when you're talking about tenths of points like that, not even a whole point, that is, less than one opponent's victory. Meaning, if you one defeated opponent, if you know, Winfield beats Magoffin County, and right now I'm projecting they win 4 games. So cross our fingers, they win 2 more games the rest of the way. If they win one extra game, that would Winfield's total would be 134.1. But if they win less, that would go down to 132 or 131. So everybody gets that. And the other interesting thing is, like for Hampshire, I've got them playing that where they do play. They play Northern Garrett County, Maryland this week. No, I'm sorry, they play them in 2 weeks, and then the week after they play Rock Ridge, Virginia. So it literally could come down to for them, whether it's Winfield or another school, um, the whether they either maybe they just get in the playoffs or whether they just get a home game or whatever the seeding is. It all could come down to whether North Garrett County, Maryland beats South Garrett County, Maryland, the last game of the season, for instance. I mean, that's how it comes down because that could be that one extra bonus point. Or if they'd happen to lose, it still could be the extra strength of schedule point. So they can get really close. So you kind of take this with a grain of salt as far as my projected rankings right now. Again, it's all based on trying to play out the season. And I'll say it again from a coaching standpoint. It's all about banking points because again, you look to the right there, you see the numbers in green. I did increase the top, just getting in the playoffs a bit. Now it's up to 111 points. The other numbers remain the same. So again, I just say, you got an opportunity every week in front of you to bank points. You've got those first level, what is in your control, so you win your ball game and you continue to bank points. So, um, you know, I think once you get to that 111 point threshold, you're going to be in the playoffs, and you get to 120 point threshold, you're going to be in the top 12, top 8, top 4, etc. So that's that's as far as that goes. So let's just go on and move on to my my bracketology. So we'll go to bracketology. Um, this really not a lot of movement there. St. Albans, Grafton, Point Pleasant, Shady, Lincoln, Brook. I think that's basically the same as far as the teams I had out and the teams I have on the bubble. Nicholas County, RCB, Chapmanville, South Charleston, Ripley, East Fairmont. That changed a little bit as far as that goes. And then my contenders with, I did add, North Marion and Nitro to my locks 100% in, likely in Hampshire, Greenbrier East, Winfield, Spring Valley, Elkins, and in the mix, Pikeview, Capital, Lewis County, Kaiser, John Marshall. Yeah, there was some movement based on some of those teams winning and some of those teams losing. Um, and yeah, like Lewis County is the best example. First week, I had them completely out. I had them down here, and now I have them you know, at least in the mix, and so they're just moving their way up. So, so that, you can control your own destiny. That's how that works. It's going to get harder for a lot of these teams if you don't win football games. And again, this is all based on future schedules and who I think is going to win, who I think's going to lose. Sorry. One other thing I will say is I'll get back to my Team A, Team B thing. Uh, Again, just as a quick reminder, Team A plays two teams that are single A, two teams that are triple A, and the remainder schedule is double A. So that means 6 teams in double A. Team B is 4 teams that are in triple A, 6 teams that are in 4A. And I'll just kind of go back to my here. I'll just go back to where we are currently, right here. And I will say that at this stage, Team A and Team B are both in the playoffs. But but from my projections wise, if Team A does not go at least 9-1, I think they're out. And I think Team B is in at 6-4 or 7-3. In fact, I think 7-3 locks them into a home game for certain. 6-4 might as well also, but like I said, that's the difference between those getting opportunities for more base points based on your schedule. Like I said, I think Team A, yeah, I've kind of given it away. If they by saying if they don't go at least 9-1, because that means that they are currently undefeated. So I guess you can kind of narrow it down now based on who's undefeated, and you can look at schedules. You can probably figure out who Team A is, but I'm still not going to give it away yet. Maybe next week or the week after, we can finally reveal who those teams are. At least Team A. I might say who Team A is. I'll let you kind of figure out who Team B is. But so that I guess that's as far as the numbers go for this week. That's the triple A math. So again, let's kind of look forward before we kind of wrap everything up. Let's kind of look forward to next week. I said I wanted to talk to you just a minute about that Princeton game last week against Graham, Virginia, and then we'll go ahead and look at the schedules for this week for as far as Winfield's opponents go, and maybe a couple other teams that play each other in the AAA division. All right, so before we wrap things up for the week, let's just go over the upcoming games. Let's start by looking at Winfield's scheduled opponents. Ripley hosts Roane County. Shady Spring at Greenbrier East, Nitro home versus Point Pleasant, Riverside at Spring Valley, Wayne at Lincoln County, Hoover at home versus South Charleston, Magoffin County has got a home game against, I guess that's Payne County, Kentucky, and of course Winfield is Princeton. And before we talk about that one, let's just really quickly kind of cover the games that are within the AAA division this week, because now that we're getting into week 6 and later, those games between those division opponents really matter as far as the rankings go. So we already said Shady and Greenbrier East, Nitro Point Pleasant, Hoover South Charleston, but also East Fairmont is at Robert C. Byrd, Elkins is at Grafton, and again Winfield at Princeton. Now, real quick before I talk about that game, just briefly, I will say that I alluded to the fact that Princeton played. They played the team from Virginia this week, Graham, Virginia, and the game ended up being a 2-score game. My perception was that the Princeton probably controlled the game throughout, and then I got to watch the game, and I realized that that Graham, Virginia team was very much in the game the whole way. In fact, the matter is, Princeton scored at least 3, maybe all 4 of their touchdowns from 40 yards out, on big plays. And Graham, Virginia actually, moved the ball fairly well on Princeton. The game was just about 5 minutes to go in the game. Graham, Virginia was going in to score and go ahead because the score was 20-14 Princeton at that time. Graham, Virginia fumbled the football on the 1-yard line, and Princeton recovered. And then I was the next play or the play after. They ripped off a 99-yard run, made the score 26-14. They missed the extra point. And then Graham, Virginia still had time, and they moved the ball back down the field, crossed the 50. And I think because of the urgency of things, they turned it over on downs. They kind of missed a wide open receiver that would have given the first down. I really honestly have no doubt they would have probably gone in to score, made a 1-score game. I don't know if it had been enough time for them to come back after they had gone down 2 scores only 5 minutes ago. But that game was quick, a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. So I don't know, just food for thought in terms of this week. I think there's an opportunity there for Winfield. I really do. Looking forward to it. It looks like a really nice facility. Not looking forward to the drive to and from, but looking forward to the game, looking forward to seeing the facilities, everything down there, and looking forward to the opportunity to pick up some 12 base points plus 3 more bonus points. 15 points would be huge if you can get them. That would be absolutely huge, and yeah, that would change my rankings in terms of how I have things and where they are right now. So that's it for the week. I look forward to seeing you all next week, and I'll talk to you later.